This conference will now be recorded.
So sharing the screen. Okay, so hope you guys are able to see the screen. So, hope, I mean, I assume that all of you attended yesterday's session and also probably day before yesterday's session as well. That was a demo session. So far we have covered, few important initial concepts as part of this course, uh, where we covered different types of performance testing. And also yesterday we covered some important concepts like what is a server, what is web server, what is app server, what is database server, what is a protocol. And also we have discussed about the failover test, what should be the approach. And also we discussed about a smoke test as well. So in this session, when we discussed about load test and all, so uh, I told you that load is nothing but the number of users and all that stuff. That's fine. But when you are assigned to any project, okay, what will you do? What is your first task? What should you start? Sorry, what should you think of? Where exactly you need to start the work assignment? So basically, there is something called performance testing lifecycle. Okay, so this is actually an interview question as well. So they might ask you what is performance testing lifecycle, or what are your day-to-day work activities in your project, or what is the process that you usually follow in your project. So the question can be any of these. Okay, so the performance testing project, okay, which has a life cycle, which is called performance testing life cycle. It has different phases like NFR, non-functional requirements, and then test plan, and then workload modeling, and then scripting, test data, scenario design and create execution, analysis, and then providing recommendations or observations. So all these are different phases of performance testing lifecycle. So if you are asked, so what are your day-to-day activities or what exactly you do in your project? So you should say, in any interview, you should say that um, I have been working in all the phases of performance testing lifecycle, right from NFR till reporting and recommendation. Okay, you start here and probably you would conclude here. Okay, so there is one more thing called POC, which I will tell you later, not that important as of now. But if if you are assigned to some project, and if your manager assigns you some application details and ask you to, hey, can you start looking into the project, you need to do performance testing for that. Then what you have to do is you need to focus on this. You need to focus on the non-functional requirements. Okay, so what do you mean by non-functional requirements? So I told you that non-functional testing, I mean, performance testing is actually part of non-functional testing. Okay, so before you start working on that project, you need to gather some information. Okay, you need to gather some information. So what kind of information you will gather? So what is that information that you need before you start working on any project? So we'll see that first. That is important. Okay. It is also part of non-functional requirements. So for this, I prepared a document here. If you see this document, I have different sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections I have. So in the first section, so okay. So the document content will be more or less same in every project, but the format might be different. Okay, the way the questions are asked might be different, but the actual core content is always the same in any project. Okay, so before you start working on any project, first thing that you need to do is schedule a meeting with the application team, that is the development team, and you can also add a business analyst also if you want to. So mostly you need to schedule a call with developers or and business analysts. Okay, and in that meeting, you need to gather some information. Okay, and based on which you can start working on your project. So what is that information you need to gather? I have listed down all these points here. Okay, the first section here is in general, like what is application name, what is the description, what is the objective of the test objective, what are we actually going to derive, and if there are any application documents, you can, we ask them to attach. So either you share this document with them, or during that call itself you only share the screen and ask them the information. Basically what we generally do is during that call we'll tell what are the different values that you might have to enter here, and then we will share this document with them. They will fill it and send us back in a day or two. Okay, so in the first section we all, I mean, it's all about application name, its objective, description, and all that stuff. The second thing, roles and responsibilities. So who is going to work on this? Who is the primary developer? Who is the product owner? Who is the performance tester? Who is a business analyst? Everything. I mean, different stakeholders will be there in the project, right? So we need to write their names as well, so that they will be our point of contact. Okay. Then from here, it's very, very important. So you are going to ask different questions from here, technical questions. So first, so the, this section is all about environment or architecture details. So what are we going to ask them is, as part of this, we are going to ask them in which environment we have to test. What is the environment that we can use for testing? So what do you mean by that? So basically what will happen in every project, you will have different environments, like dev environment, okay, and or sit environment, or sit or IST testing environment. This is called testing environment. You might also have another environment like UAT environment. This is also a testing environment only. And in some projects, you will also have a specific environment for performance testing. You'll have a specific environment for performance testing. Okay. So you have dev environment, you have SIT or IST, and this is testing environment. This is also kind of testing environment. And then this is core performance testing environment. So what do you mean by these environments? See, yesterday we discussed the architecture, right? Where I told you web server, web server, application server, database server, and all that stuff. So each of these environments will have a separate configuration, right? So for example, let's say, uh, okay, so let's say this is a production environment. Production environment is nothing but the main environment where the actual users use it. So let's say this application URL is something like this. Okay, this is the production environment URL, and this environment will also have like 3 server instances. Okay, on DB instance, DB server instance. Okay, uh, and load balancer and all that stuff. So whatever we have here, okay, now this is prod environment. So similarly, we have different initial environments. So where the development will actually happen, that is development environment, right? So the URL will be something like this if you want. I mean, it can be little different in your projects, but mostly you will have something, some unique thing, some unique, uh, you know, keyword here, which will represent the environment. Okay. So here I just wrote dev. Okay. And then for SIT or UAT and IST environment, probably you'll have something like this. Okay, for UAT, you'll have something like this. The URL will be different. Okay, and then if you are using perf environment, so perf environment might have a different URL like this. Okay, perf environment might have a different URL like this. Now, what we were asking here is in which environment we have to test, either SIT or UAT or perf. which environment we have to test. So that details we are asking. So that application team or the development team we should let us know the environment, in which environment we can test. If we have a dedicated environment, they will give us this environment and they will give us this URL. Okay, so I'll tell you that. So here, let's say it is perf. Let's say. Then next thing, uh, okay. One more important thing is, uh, if you have a dedicated environment like the perf environment, the performance testing environment, it is always good because you need not depend on other teams. You can go ahead and run the test whenever you want. Nobody's going to access this URL at all except your team. Sometimes in some projects, what will happen is we will be asked to share the other environment like this or this. Sometimes we will be asked to share the environments either this or this. So what do you mean by sharing the environments? So these URLs or environments will be used by functional testing and automation testing teams as well for their testing purpose. And we have to share them. So in the these are shared environments. This is a dedicated environment for us. So in the dedicated environment, you can run whenever you want. In a shared environment, we need to follow some timings. So like we cannot run whenever we want because if you are also running the performance test and automation team is also running like 400, 500 scripts at the same time, that might impact the load. And then the results can vary. The results might not be accurate. So what we have to do when we have to run in a shared environment, better to inform those teams, okay, before itself. That let's say, hey, today evening around 8 p.m. I'm going to run a load test for 2 hours, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST. So you have to inform these two testing teams, management, everyone, so that everyone will come to know that you will be using these environments. So what will happen? In that email only you should request them not to perform any other testing activities because we will be running the performance test, right? So we are requesting them not to perform any other testing activities, okay, so that there will not be any load conflicts. So if someone is also testing the application, if we are also testing the application in the same environment, there will be some impact on the load, right? So due so those conflicts can be avoided if you send an email before itself about your planned performance test execution. Okay, dedicated, you can run whenever you want. So anyone who are already or currently working in any project, are you getting my point? At least who are completely new, don't worry, okay, you'll get some idea soon. So at least some of you might got some idea now. Okay, there are different environments. No, the important question here is whatever the environment we are testing, that should be a replica of production. So when I say a replica of production, so here if we have three server instances and one database server instance and load balancer and all those things, the same configuration, same infrastructure should be present here also. For example, if you are running the performance test here in this environment, so the configuration of this environment should match with this environment. Okay, so that is important thing. So in whichever environment you are going to run the test, that environment configuration should match with production. It should be a replica of production. Okay, so that's the reason we asked this question. Is load test environment a replica of production? Yes or no? If it is yes, it is yes. If it is no, it is no. What do you mean by yes or no? Like here you have three server instances, here you have only two server instances. That is, it is not a replica. And each server instance has 32 GB RAM here. Here each server instance has let's say 16 GB RAM. That is not uh, a replica. Okay. So replica is like here also you should have three, here also you should have three. Here each RAM is 32 GB, here also each RAM should be 32 GB like that. Okay. Any questions? So why it should be a replica? Because the why we are doing a performance testing to tell the client that whether the application will run properly or not in the production. So when we have to tell whether our application is going to run smoothly in production or not, So now we have to test in a similar environment to production or exactly a replica of that production. Then only we can assure a client that hey, your application is going to support for so and so number of users and so load and all that stuff. Okay, any questions? So you guys are getting the point. So that is also one of the important question we need to ask, where we need to run. See, that's the reason I mentioned production versus test environment. We should compare CPUs, RAM, capacity, and all that stuff. Okay, so prod versus the environment where we are testing. So both should be replica. I mean same. And then is there any pre or post work required? So we are asking them, will there be any pre or post work required to work on this application? Okay, and then we are asking them to provide architecture details, like what is the web server they are using, what is the app server they are using, what is the database server they are using, which load balancer is being used. Okay, so that architecture diagram, architecture details, link and data we are asking in this section. Any questions? Okay, so every performance tester before working on any project, you need to start with this tasks only. You need to gather some information and then only you will be able to work on the task. Okay, then any questions in this section? Did you understand this section? Very, very important, because from these sections and all, you might get interview questions also. They'll be asking you, in which environment did you run your test? So you will say performance environment. We have a dedicated environment, performance testing environment. Then they will ask you, is it a replica of production or not? So you should tell whether it is a replica of production or not. Okay, and so this section is also very important. Now, if you don't have any questions, I'll move to the next table here below. Everyone understanding the terms and terminologies that we are using? If you don't understand any term that I'm using currently, you can just stop me and you can pause and you can just ask me, like, what is the term that you are using? Why are we using that term? Okay, because uh, sometimes what will happen, we will be able to understand the concept, but the terms that we are using might still get confused, might still confuse us. Okay, so and then application technology, next section. In this section, we are going to ask them what is the protocol that they are using. So yesterday also we discussed, right, about protocol. So can anyone tell what is protocol as per yesterday's session? Anyone?
It's a set of rules.
Yeah, it's a set of rules. Okay, so based on the protocol used by client, we will also decide our protocol. Okay, so which protocol they are using, HTTP or HTTPS or FTP or something like that. Okay, then we are asking them what is the application technology, which technology was used to build that application, to develop that application. Is it Java or .NET or Python? So we are asking them which technology was used, and then we are asking them database details, like which database they are using, and then we are asking any third party components, like we will be using some third party plugins, components, we never know, right? We are just asking them. And then we'll also ask about the messaging system, so the message queues used. If they have any message queues used, you are asking them, are we using any message queues concepts here? Okay, so message queues in sense, like I'll tell you one simple example. The OTP is one example for message queues. So whenever we click on something and if it is related to OTP, the OTP will go and get saved into some queue, and from that queue it will be sent to us. Okay, all the OTPs first come first serve basis kind of thing. Like based on the users clicking those links and getting OTPs. All the OTPs will be saved into some queue, and then automatically that queue that OTPs will be further used. Okay. So this section is all about technology details, the application technology details like Java, Python, web services, what are we using, third-party components, and all that stuff. Any questions here? Okay. So if you scroll down here, you have application details. In these application details, we are asking them the very, very important things like what are the critical scenarios that we need to test. I told you every application will have critical and non-critical. So performance testing team will always focus on critical scenarios. So we are asking them what are the critical scenarios that we have to test. Okay. So I told you, right, for banking application, transfer money is critical scenario. Like download statement is critical. Sorry. Okay. And non-critical you probably will ignore. It's not that important. So that's the reason we are asking them what are critical for you. Let me know. Okay. And then the application test environment URL we are asking. So the URL in sense this one. So let's say this is the environment that we are going to test as per them. So we are asking them URL this and any sample passwords, any sample username and passwords for me to just log in and go through the application, understand, see the look and feel of that application, how is designed, UI and everything. And then how do how to get sorry, and in performance testing, uh, we might need lot of user IDs, right? We might need lot of user IDs to test. Okay, because when I say 100 users, when client said test with 100 users, so I might need some 100 usernames and passwords. We know. Okay, possible. So from where should I get those credentials, those many credentials, 100 credentials I need to create? How? So we are asking them, okay, how do I create a new set of credentials for performance testing? I don't want to use others credentials, I want to use my own credentials for performance testing. So how do I create? So all these things we are going to ask. Okay, any questions here? Okay, so those details you get it here, and this is very very important again, this section. Any questions? Okay,
So
so yeah,
if we
please.
need to create 1,000 users, so we have to create it manually, or a developer can help it.
Yeah, so that's the reason actually we are asking this question here. So because they know like how to create credentials, because they might already be using some one or two for their testing purpose, okay, for development purpose. So they will tell us the approach or the process how to create user IDs and passwords. If they let us know the process, we will also create our on our own, or we can, for that also we can create our own script to create test data. See, basically for performance testing we need to have a lot of test data. So apart from our scripts, we can also have some additional scripts just for preparing test data. Okay, because sometimes let's say I want to use some 10,000 I want to use some 10,000 unique numbers. So if I want to use 10,000 unique numbers, I need to prepare some logic for that to generate. Okay, I can't write 10,000 unique numbers in notepad file and use them. So there should be some automatic generation of that unique numbers and all that stuff. We'll see those later. So we will ask the process and we will only create if it is easy. If it is dependent on some other team, we will request them. Okay, and then the next again important section is workload volume details. So in this section, we are asking with how many users I have to test, 500, 1000 and all. But whatever the numbers they are giving here, this is based on the load test numbers. So they will keep the load test in mind and then they will give these numbers to us. It's not like this is for scalability or stress. So they will keep the load test in mind and then they will give this number to us. Okay. How they will give, we'll see in some time. What is the current production volumes? See, if it is an existing application, this question arises. Okay, if it's an existing application, this question will arise like what is the current volumes. But if it's a brand new application, let's say if it's a brand new application, then they might not have this data. Okay, so anything is possible. And then test data, how much test data we need, what data we might need, how much test data, how to get data. We are asking them. So they will tell us the process. We will create in the same way. Either we can use our own scripts or we can request some other teams to get fetch data for us. Possible. Okay. Any questions still here? Okay. So then testing details. These testing details. Uh, here we are asking them what types of testing required. How many types of testing we need to perform. So do we need to perform load, endurance, scalability, stress, failover, etc. We are asking them. So if they say that okay, we are not aware of these performance testing concepts, you can go ahead and run the important three ones. You can always suggest these three. Okay, but in that project, if they are following some types of testing already, you can continue to use the same thing. You need not change. Okay, but if nothing is being followed, if you are asked to do, and then you can choose or you can select these three. Okay, because why I'm selecting these three is I told you one point yesterday. Performance testing is measured in terms of speed, stability, and scalability. So speed is nothing but it is related to load test. Stability is related to endurance test. Scalability is related to scalability test. So you can suggest these three and tell them the reason that basically as per the industry standard, performance testing is measured in terms of speed, stability, and scalability. Considering those 3 points, we are we have decided to run these three types of tests for this application. If you have any other inputs and if you want us to run any other type of testing, please do let me know. Like that, you need to discuss in the call. Okay, and again, very important timelines. See, it's not like they will be asking us to run the performance test and we will be given like 2 months, 3 months time. No, they will give some minimum time, like a week, like 3 days, 4 days for scripting and complete the execution in next 1 week or so, 3 days or 1 week or so, something similar to that. So we'll have max to max 1 to 2 weeks windows. Okay, not more than that. So we are asking them like how within how many weeks we have to complete, generally what time it will be there and all that stuff. And then we are asking, are there any APM tools that we are using like AppDynamics, Dynatrace, Datadog, all that stuff. And then we are asking them SLA. I told you about SLA, right? In 2 days ago, I guess, 2 days ago, I guess. So SLA means service level agreement. Okay, where the client will decide what should be the response time that when a user clicks a link or clicks a button, what should be the response time the client will decide. Okay, and then they will give the SLA for us. Based on this SLA, we can either mark the transaction as pass or partial success or fail or something like that. And then we are asking them any existing production issues, yes or no. We are asking them, do you have any production issues existing, yes or no? Do you have any production issues with the application? If yes, they will only mention. If no, they will not mention. So all in all, these are the different sections, and this is the performance testing questionnaire document that you need to uh, keep it handy and also share it with the application team, business analyst, and all those teams as and when required. Okay. Any questions? I will share you this document as well. The format might be different, but the questions will be always same in every project. Like in some projects, they might use PDF. In some projects, they might use a Word document like this. But more or less, the priorities, Same. Okay, anything is same. Okay, so any further questions in this document? I'll share this document with you guys. So hope this information was useful to you. Okay, every performance tester, before starting their work, you need to schedule a meeting with all the teams, development team, business analyst, and all, and then you make them understand these questions that you have and ask them to fill it out and send it back to you, and then you can work on it. See, meantime, before they fill it and send it back to us, I generally what I do, okay, you can take some time, 1 or 2 days, and fill it and send it back to me, but meantime, give me this sample URL and sample credentials, so that I will log into the application and see how the application is designed. Okay, i'll try to record a s- I'll try to record a small flow, and then we'll see whether my tool is able to record it successfully or not, so I can complete those tasks. Okay, when you request the application team to fill all these, meantime you can get these two first, and then try to record the application using Vusion and see whether Vusion is able to record that application or not. Any questions? Are you guys getting the point?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mm, okay, now here we have this total concurrent users as 500, which will be given for load test. Okay, which will be given for load test. Now, who is going to give this number? We were discussing, right? Who is going to give this number to us?
Product owner.
Client.
Product owner or client or application team themselves might have that information and they might give it to you. Okay. Now, here, how are they getting this number? From where they are getting this number and they are giving it to you?
If it's already live, then using the past data.
See, here in this case, difference, and also, okay. Now let's say client is giving it to you from, fine. They might have some information. They might, okay, they might have got that information from uh, some business teams and all that stuff. That's fine. Now let's assume the client doesn't know anything about performance testing, and the client just reached out to you and that, hey, do the performance testing for our project. Client doesn't know anything about performance testing. Then in that case, from where client will get this number to us? So here, for that, you have multiple scenarios. Okay, so here I just mentioned, how do you gather information regarding target volume to be achieved if your client doesn't know anything about performance testing? Okay, so for this question, we can answer in 3 different scenarios, something like this. One second. So you understood the question first? See, client doesn't know anything about performance testing. Okay, but you need some input to test, right? Like the number of users and all that stuff. So client doesn't know anything about performance testing, and here we have 3 different scenarios. Like first scenario is, if the application is already in production, that means it's an old application, it is existing application, it is already there, it is already being used by users. Okay, then in that case you need to fetch, or you can get the total users data by accessing some tools like database, SQL. Okay, like some data analytical tools like Splunk. Okay, so when you use these tools, okay, you might get some information about what how many number of users. Okay, let's take something like this, because if it's an existing application, so in the last 6 months, during which day, during which month, during which day, and during what time period, the more number of users access the application, that information we need to know. Yeah, you can get that information in database or Splunk. Okay, even you can ask developer to get it, you need not worry. If you know, you can get it, but otherwise you can ask developer to get that information for you. Okay, so because the application is already in production and already in use, you can just access the SQL database, and then see the volumes, and then based on that you can take the number of users. That's what I mentioned here. So here, if the application is already in production, then we should get the historical data, maybe last 6 months or 1 year, right? You should get the previous data, like last 1 year data or 2 years data, by using some analytical tools like Splunk, SQL, etc., SQL Server, etc., whatever it is, and analyze the data. For example, in the last 1 year, which month, which date, and which hour was the most busiest hour? Okay, when was the application most busy? That means when was the last time that more number of users access the application, how many page views, etc. Did you guys understand this point? So we are going to database and fetching the last 1 year data, and then we are seeing in some column or some table, basically in some table and then some column, you'll have some information or the other. Okay, and you can get the data. That can be your input. So what I mean to say is, you can only, if you have access to database and all, production database and all, you can also query. Otherwise, you can ask developer to get this data for you. Any doubts in scenario one? In scenario one, the application is already in production. The application is already in production. In the second scenario, okay, application is not in production. Application is not in production, and also client doesn't know anything about performance testing. So basically here, application is not in production. What do you mean by this? Can anyone tell what do you mean by application not in production? That means it is no longer
Not
a
visible.
live application. That is, nobody is using it so far in the live. Okay, it is not in production. No data in the production. Nobody is using it as of now. Let's say this is the first time, and you have to take care of it, and your client doesn't know anything about performance testing. And then how do you derive the total number of users here? How do you derive total number of users here? So in this case, because the application is not in production, you have to get the competitor statistics. Okay, so you have to get the competitor statistics, like by using some network traffic utilities like alexa.com, or like I have one more example like similarweb.com, and analyze page views, from which location they are accessing and all that stuff. So because the application is not in production, that means it is a kind of new application. That means we don't know how many users will access that application in production, because it's a completely new thing. When it's a completely new application, how will you know how many users will access that application? So in this case, we have to use some network traffic utilities. Okay, i'll I'll try to access one sample one. Let me show you. Okay, I just access this sample one, similarweb.com, just for your understanding. So let's say I am starting a new news channel. I am starting a brand new television channel for news, and I don't know how many users might access my application, my television channel. Okay, so in that case, I can get my competitor statistics. So here, if you see, here I selected United States here, and this is news and media publishing. Here it is giving like different news and media publisher details. Okay, 1 second. Okay, uh, 1 second, guys. Okay, so here, like if you see, compare msn.com, foxnews.com, and newyorktimes.com, cnn.com, yahoo.com. So here they are giving high level information like this MSN has 614 million visits, 285 million visits, 546 million visits, 594 million visits, 3.5 billion visits, something like this. Okay, now if I change to any bank, let's say, finance. So here you see like bankofamerica.com, citi.com, capitalone.com, chase.com, paypal.com. These are all different competitors, right? Now I can change the country also if you want. So let's say I'll select India. So now if I select India, see it is showing the top, like banks with the top banks in terms of page visits. Okay, it's not like revenue and all. It's all about page visits. How many people are accessing that application? So we have xns.com, zerodha.com, hdfcbank.com, economictimes.com, moneycontrol.com. So let's say if these are all competitors, so we will go, okay, for that application, they have so much of data. Okay, let's try with that similar data for us. Okay, so these sort of tools or network traffic tools or utilities, they provide these competitor statistics to us. Okay, actually they will charge. See, there is something called pricing here. They will charge some good amount and they will give us in detailed analysis like how many people are accessing, which page they are accessing, from which location they are accessing. All these details will be provided by them. This is scenario 2. What is scenario 2? If the application is not in production and client also doesn't know anything about performance testing. Okay, when it is not in production, that means it's a kind of a new application. That is scenario 2. And then we have scenario 3. Then we have scenario 3. In this scenario 3, here also application is not in production. In scenario 3 also, application is not in production. And actually client also doesn't know anything about performance testing. And then one more point, and there is no competitor also. Here there is no competitor. Let's say you are the first one who is launching that sort of application. No competitor. Okay. In that case, the business teams will focus on the core business. Okay, like let's say you are the first one to start food delivery app and there is no competitor. You have to know like how many users might use your application to buy food online. Then because it's the first time, what they generally might do is they focus on the core business. What do you mean by core business? They might analyze, they might do some surveys or analyze that how many people are going to the nearby stores and ordering food directly. Okay, what is the peak time? When are the when during what time of the day more people are going to the nearby food delivery stores and buying directly? So if you have that sort of information, you can just make use of it and then automatically uh, get some information or get some data or get some initial understanding of how much data you need to do for testing. Okay, this is scenario 3. So generally, if you are a performance tester, most likely you can do this. Okay, you can get the information or you can directly access the production servers and get this. But scenario 2 and scenario 3, most of the cases you might not get a chance to work for these two scenarios because these will be dealt at a business level, top level. Okay, why performance testers might not be involved directly is, for example, you are working from India and you are supporting some Australia or US project. No, your client is in USA, let's say. You are in India supporting that project. Now you have to do performance testing. You don't know anything. Okay, you don't have competitor also. Even client also doesn't know anything about performance testing. Then if you're sitting in India, how will you understand the core business of US projects? So it's not possible, right? Okay, you are sitting in India and working on some project. Now you're trying to understand the core business of US. and you're trying to fetch some data. I mean, you might miss some points. Okay, so that's the reason whenever in interview, if they ask, tell all these three scenarios. Okay, tell all these three scenarios, and immediately there will be a follow-up question for you. That follow-up question is, have you ever gathered data for scenario 3 or 2 mentioned above? So what you have to tell is, scenario 1, yes, you can get data. You can use Splunk database and whatever it is. But scenario 2 and 3, okay, um, so you might not be involved to finalize the user volumes. Um, and you can just tell that uh, you can just tell that client didn't provide the user volumes. However, we were sorry, we discussed these points with the the business analyst. Okay, and they discussed with the upper level business management teams, and they provided the data to us. That's it. Okay, you don't need to say that no, no, I only analyzed everything, I only understood the core business in USA. You cannot say all these things. Okay, practically it is quite not possible. Are you getting my point? So in interview also they might ask you, how do you gather information regarding target volumes? They can stop the question here. Or they might ask you, if the client doesn't know anything about performance testing, then you have to tell these three scenarios, and there could be a follow-up question as well. Any questions? Any questions? So very, very important interview question, this one. So you need not worry. I mean, whatever I have written here, if you tell the same points, that is more than enough. Okay. So I myself take so many interviews, and I was interviewed by many people. Okay. So this question will be definitely asked by a lead or a manager during your interview process. Okay. Any questions? And also, um, the previous test questionnaire document is there, right? For this, you might get a question something like this. This is also 100% sure question. What is the important information to be gathered from application team or client before you start working on any project? So before you start working on any project, what is that information you're trying to gather? So if you can tell at least 6-7 points from here without thinking too much, I think interview will be like 20-25% done in favor of you. Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, because I myself was asked this question many times, and I used to tell all these points quickly. Okay, so I used to tell that before I work on any project, I generally gather some questions, something like critical scenarios, target volumes, SLAs, in which environment we need to test, what is the protocol they are using, architecture diagram, what are the different server configurations, is there any test data dependency, is performance testing environment a replica of production, what are testing timelines, is there any proxy dependency, is the load balanced, something like this. You need not tell all, but at least 6, 7, 8 quickly. If you can tell, it will be good enough in favor of you. Okay, any questions? Did you guys understand this important point? I'll share this interview questions document, and also I'll share this as well. Okay, for sure. Very, very important interview questions. Definitely they will ask you these two for sure. Either of these two, you will get it in any interview. Okay. Any other questions? So I'll give you like few minutes back. If you have any further questions, right, do reach out to me directly. So in the next session, we will try to understand this concept, workload modeling. because there are some terms that I need to explain, like what is think time, because when you record a script, probably next week when you record a script, in that script you might see something like think time and all that stuff. So you should not get confused. So you have to understand what is think time and all. So in the next session we are going to cover this concept. Okay, and definite interview question will be there from this concept as well. Okay, any questions? Okay, so next week we will start practical sessions. So once this is done, I will ask all of you. I mean, I'll take one session for the installation, and then from then onwards we'll start recording scripts. We'll see different recording options. We'll see how to execute. We'll see what are the different enhancement options. Okay, we'll also focus on C language, and that the practical sessions will begin next week, from next week for sure. Okay, but please don't ignore these questions. These are interview questions, mandatory questions that we discussed today. Okay, thanks everyone. Will
Sir, one last
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
One question, sir.
please,
Uh,
yeah.
what 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 is the course duration, sir?
It's like 35 to 40 sessions.
Okay.
So like we started like 3 days ago or something, Tuesday, right?
Yes, sir.
Tuesday or
Yeah.
sometime, right? Yeah, I don't know. Like we started, yeah, I think Tuesday. So Tuesday,
Tuesday, yes.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So this is like third session kind of thing, including
Yeah.
excluding demo. So like we will have another 30, 34, 35 or something.
Okay. Sir, is this course included this performance engineering as well, sir?
So some concepts of performance engineering are covered because this is actually a LoadRunner course. But I want my participants to understand some other concepts as well, which are related to performance testing but not specific to LoadRunner. That's the reason I added few concepts as bonus topics. We'll have like 4 or 5 sessions on those concepts as well, like the performance engineering concepts.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, okay. So let's meet again in the next session. Thanks everyone, and hope to see all of you in the upcoming sessions as well.